Welcome, skeptics and truth seekers, to Schoolhouse Crack, the podcast that fearlessly exposes the real deal behind public education in the state of Colorado. I am your host, Stacey Castile, and on this show, we are not here to sugarcoat. We are here to unveil the truths, challenge the norms, and unpack the crock of you-know-what that often goes unnoticed in the realm of education. On this episode, I will be giving an update on the book complaints for Greeley Evans District 6, as well as discussing the upcoming meeting for the Black Family Affinity Group in District 6. Just a quick recap on the District 6 book complaints. In December of 2022, there were 11 books that had complaints filed against them during a Greeley Evans District 6 school board meeting. There was a complaint for each book at each school, and over 100 complaints for each of those books. I cannot stress enough, a majority of the complaints were merely asking for parental consent prior to the book being checked out. There were only a few people who were requesting that the books be completely pulled out of the library. The district sent out certified mail to everyone who had an applicable complaint. This meant their names and addresses were verified to be District 6 residents. Apparently, paying taxes into the state and then the state giving tax money to a school district does not allow you to have a voice if you don't live inside that school district's boundaries, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. The district then created a book review committee where they tried to find unbiased people. Of course, these are all people who already have some type of relationship with the district. An example, recent graduates from Greeley Evans District 6, parents on the Greeley Evans District 6 District Accountability Committee, community members that the district felt comfortable with going to with this request, as well as teachers inside the district and administrators from the admin building, as well as from the schools. So far, of all of the books reviewed by the committee, 3 have been removed due to books not being checked out very frequently. 1 was removed because there was only 1 copy of that book and it has now been labeled as lost. The other 9 have been kept available to students without parental consent. Some of the books are in K-8 libraries, so it was determined that those books would not be available for kindergarten through 5th grade. All of these books have some type of inappropriate sexual content, most often rape. Instead of wanting to protect children from encountering this heavy content by contacting the parents first to make sure they believe their child is mature enough to handle the content, the book review committee, Deirdre Pilch, the superintendent, and 5 of the board members all believe that the content is appropriate for students. But I thought that nobody knew a student better than the parent. And if that was truly the case and truly the belief that the school district had, why would they not make sure that the parent believed that their child was mentally, intellectually mature enough to handle the content of the books prior to the child checking the book out? Despite being financially responsible for lost or damaged library books, the board believes that it is not acceptable for a librarian to contact parents prior to a child checking out a book because it may restrict that child's right to access information. But if a parent wants to contact the school first and demand their child be restricted from accessing specific books, that does not violate the child's right to access the information. The board also believes that if an author writes a book poetically and it gets amazing awards and addresses tough concepts, that all overshadows the inappropriate content that is inside the book. To me, that's like saying as long as you make a cake taste good and decorate it beautifully, you can put a piece of dog poop in the cake and they will still eat it. Honestly, it doesn't make sense. To me, the inappropriate parts take away from the literary value of the books. How can you understand the complex social issues when you're too busy reading about a rape scene, reading about uncomfortable and hard to process sex scenes? I, for one, while reading these books, am not able to truly focus on those topics that could potentially help prepare a child for the real world because I am too disturbed by what I am reading in regards to the sexual nature. Each time the book committee and superintendent make a decision on a book, the number of people who are appealing the books is getting smaller and smaller. And trust me, I get it. and totally understand. I myself spent a lot of time in prayer trying to decide if it was worth it for me to put myself through that process just to merely get parental consent prior to checking the book out. If you have a kid in the school district and you're opposed to these books being available to your child, I ask you to please, please, please email their principal and librarian and ask them to restrict access to these books. If you need an idea of what type of inappropriate books are in the libraries or inappropriate titles that you may not want your child to have access to, there's plenty of information on the internet, as well as feel free to contact me and I will let you know and be able to give you some information about what is in those books as opposed to just stating that this book is not appropriate. The board is saying that because parents and guardians are not restricting access for their students, there must not really be that big of a concern if a child has access to these books. The school board also believes that because I am not everybody's parent, that I should not be able to have a say for everybody. And therefore, that is why they want you to restrict the access yourself for your student instead of restricting the access for everybody. Even if that child's parents are not able to pay attention to what is going on inside the district or that these books may potentially be in the library, they still think that it is your responsibility to only worry about your own kids. I don't think that the district has done a very good job of notifying those who submitted complaints of when the book committee is reviewing books. Each time the book committee is reviewing a book, those who had submitted a complaint have the opportunity to speak to the committee to give them their reasoning as to why they do not believe that this book is appropriate for children and why they believe that it is important for parental consent to be given prior to the child checking the book out. You have to go to the district's website to find when the book review committee will be discussing that book and then make sure that you sign up by notifying the school district before the deadline that is given. You have to go to the district's website to find when the book review committee is going to be discussing the books. In order to find this, you must go to the district's website, go under departments, go to academic achievement, and then click on the plus sign next to the title academic achievement and go to public concerns/complaints about instructional resources and teaching methods to stay up to date on what is going on. As of this podcast, there are still 2 books to be reviewed. Once the book committee has reviewed the books, they submit their decision to the superintendent. The superintendent then reviews their suggestion and makes a decision herself on whether to uphold the book committee's decision. After she makes her decision, then those who complained about the books are sent a letter in the mail notifying them of the book review committee's decision and of the superintendent's decision, and then give them a deadline as to when they can appeal that decision. If they do appeal that decision, then they are to go in front of the school board at a meeting and discuss why this book should have parental consent before the child checks the book out. I truly believe that the reason the board refuses to implement parental consent prior to the book being checked out is because they are afraid that a student will come after the district for violating the student's right to access these books if the parents say no. This honestly seems to go hand in hand with the preferred pronouns and names fight that is currently going on at the state level. Parental rights are being violated because the state sees those rights as less important than the rights of these minor students. This is why teachers or schools are not allowed to contact parents when a student wants to use a different pronoun, because it may potentially reveal what the student is up to behind the parents' back. So it only makes sense that the school can't contact a parent prior to checking out a book because it may reveal to the parent what a student is doing behind their backs. If the state believes a child can pick their gender, pick their pronouns, or make medical decisions all on their own, of course they can check out a book that talks about rape, incest, and other inappropriate topics without their parents knowing. Again, I strongly urge, if you have a child in the district, if you know someone who has a child in the district, please, please, please have them email their librarian and their principal to notify them that their child should be restricted from accessing this book without being notified prior to the child accessing the book. This will start to show the school district that it is a big concern for us and that this is not something that's going to go away. Greeley Evans District 6 sent out letters to parents and community members about a Black Family Affinity Group meeting on April 9th, 2024. Back in November 2023, at a District Accountability Committee meeting, or also known as DAC meeting, it was announced that there was going to be the creation of a Black Cultural Excellence Committee. It was stated at the DAC meeting that only Black people were going to be allowed to participate. But I'm not sure if the parents have to be Black or if just the students have to be Black. As a mom to a biracial son, I'm very curious about this. But also as a mom to a half white, half Hispanic child, I'm curious when that meeting will be. All joking aside, if this is giving off racist vibes to you, you are absolutely correct. Could you imagine how many heads would explode if there was a white family affinity group? We have Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, and now a Black Family Affinity Group. It would also be called a Klan meeting if we had a white family affinity group. This just goes to show that the district does support the division of races in the name of equity. And as if the whole meeting wasn't ridiculous, they will be providing pizza and water to, and I quote, to ensure a comfortable and welcoming atmosphere. Are they encouraging emotional eating? Do they think Black people are only motivated by food? I think the biggest question is, are non-Black people going to be allowed to join in the meeting? And if not, will the district be paying for the pizza and water from their personal pockets? Or just from Black family tax dollars? The Black people that I have talked to about this think that this is a massive joke and is an insult to them. One father in the community said that these are misguided people, meaning the district, blindly thinking they're doing good for our community. Black families need District 6 to help bring them together. Why not bring all of these families together? What they're actually doing is strengthening the separation of the various groups in our community. Very divisive and sad on their part. Honestly, I couldn't agree more. This issue isn't black and white, pun intended. Like I stated, does this only apply to Black parents, children with both parents being Black, or children with at least one Black parent? What if the child is in foster or adoptive care? How does that play into this? Honestly, I encourage you to contact the Greeley Evans School District to ask for clarification, as well as I encourage you to show up to the meeting. I mean, there will be free pizza after all. The meeting will be at the administration building on April 9th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. You must park on the east side of the building and go in through the east doors. That does it for this week's episode. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate all of your support. Please be sure to share this episode with your friends and families. Also, please like my YouTube channel, Schoolhouse Croc, as well as find me on X at Schoolhouse Croc with no K on the end. If you have any comments or suggestions, please email me at stacy4d6@gmail.com.